G'day mates, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm doing the much awaited grand final drop spot breakdown. I'm going to talk about who's contested, who's dropping where, and what my predictions are coming into this weekend, because it's looking really exciting. I think we have one of the best FNCS finals on our hands, but a lot of the big teams unfortunately are contested, and I want to have that conversation about what is that going to mean for their finals, because last FNCS, not a single team across any region came top 3 when they were contested. So does this mean Benjy, Fishy, Clix, and so many other big names FNCS is pretty much over before it starts? I want to have that conversation. Also, we got a teaser today, or we got a leak about what the new season might be, including a new end of season event. It's going to be a live event, which again, normally that means some major changes coming into the new season, and there's also some more leaks around what that might look like. How is the map going to change? And I want to talk about that because I'm so excited for this new season. Before I talk about the leaks and what looks like is going to happen with next season's map, let's focus on this map and let's focus on grand finals. And before I get into looking at exactly who's dropping where on EU and NA, I want to explain that point a little bit more about why I won't be predicting teams that are getting contested like Clix or like Benjy to do that incredibly well. When you look at last season, top 3 in every single region was not contested. You gotta let that sink in. Not a single team was good enough, well contested in any region to get a top 3 podium finish. That is insane. We've talked about that a lot in the past, but I think Destiny Jesus made a fantastic tweet today explaining why that was less of an issue back in the day and why pros are focusing on it more now. He actually broke down the old map and outlined what were viable trio drops. And again, from someone who played this map before or someone who's been coaching since the very beginning like Destiny Jesus, you can take his word for it. And when you look at it, it makes sense. These were all very viable drop spots for 2 reasons. There was more POIs, there was more loot at the POIs in general and around them, and 100% chest spawn. We're going into this season, if you look at the current map right now, this is just an example of EU, look how many more teams are going to be contested. Like, look at this, it looks ridiculous compared to the old map where there was so much more room to go around. And I know what you're gonna say, Aussie, spawn fights are good, it's a battle royale, I want to see people fight, and I fully agree with you. I think that's great as well, but the problem is not everyone's contested. I made a tweet tonight as well. I likened it to the idea that or just win the drop spot, or it's a battle royale, you don't own the drop spot. That makes sense if everyone was contested, but it's like if you look at any other sport. Let's say it's the Olympic finals of a sprint. Imagine that half the sprinters were randomly allocated a backpack with weights for no reason, because a lot of the times teams getting dropped on isn't for a reason. Some teams, you got to imagine, like Tayson's team, like Epic Whale's team on NA West, they are so scary, they do so well, and they have such a big reputation, no one wants to drop on them, and they've earned that reputation. So in a way, you do earn getting your own uncontested drop spot, but a lot of teams that are newly formed or just because of luck, they get dropped on. Look at Hen, Janice, and Chapik's last FNCS, and this is no disrespect to High Chris's team. They more than earned that drop spot. They placed better than any other team in the world on EU back to back, but when it came down to finals, High Chris's team that goes craggy wanted to go craggy, they dropped on them, and both of them didn't do that well. Hen's team did surprisingly well for being contested, but they were the best team in the world coming into FNCS, or at least top 3, and they didn't get that placement because they were contested. So that's why I want you guys to remember, when you're going to see a lot of pros getting frustrated this weekend, when you're going to want to, you know, maybe go in and DM some of the pros dropping on your favorite pro, telling them they're terrible, saying you hate them, they have to drop somewhere. There is not enough loot on the current map. I'm hoping in the new season we get a map with way more POIs, maybe 100% chest spawn comes back because that makes way more loot on the map, and then we'll be able to see more teams get uncontested, or if they are contested, they can play around it. Because I like watching spawn fights too, but if you go back into the old season, spawn fights, you know, you could drop half of Pleasant, take a little bit, maybe you disengage if you don't get good loot, you get some tags. It was a lot more strategic. With how few drop spots there are on the map right now, you've got teams double dropping at the IO houses around the map, like the one near retail. There is nothing skillful about that fight. It's whoever gets the chest first, they just gung-ho at each other with guns, try to kill each other. There's not even a reboot van, so it's not even like the spawn fights feel that skillful or feel like they're really rewarding one team over the other. A lot of it is just RNG right now because chests aren't even guaranteed. So just keep that in mind when I'm talking about who's going to do well and who's not going to do well. I'm going to try and keep this video positive. I don't want to just be complaining, but I just want to let you guys know exactly why this FNCS finals is going to be interesting, why there's probably going to be a lot of drama, and for you and me who aren't playing, we get to watch it and enjoy it. It's going to be entertaining, and hopefully the winner wins because they deserve to win, not just because of a bit of on-spawn beef or drama. But I do want to look forward to a future in Fortnite competitive where we have a map that actually reflects competitive, or at least reflects the game mode. If we had duos like we had DreamHack recently, this map works. There was a lot of teams who came top 5 in the duo DreamHack finals who were contested. There was more than enough loot, there was more than enough drops, and winning spawn fights on duos consistently is a lot more likely, and you can still go on to have a good game. So there's a few solutions to fix this problem in the future, and I hope we see at least some of them or all of them implemented. Now, talking about who I do think is going to go well and where they're dropping, my top 3 straight out the gate from NA East. Probably no surprises here. Day, Mirror, Reverse 2K, Centered, Commandment, and Edgy, and then Booger, Nosh, and Avery. So kicking off with the Reverse 2K's team, they're going Dirty Dogs, uncontested. They're home. They've now won an FNCS and came top 4 the other FNCS out of this drop, and they won one before that. So they've won 2 out of the last 3 FNCSs with a 4th place. You just can't bet against that. I know why some people might, because obviously they did look like they were going to split at the start of this season. That could have potentially rattled their confidence or their chemistry. Reverse 2K also has been talking about how he hasn't really been enjoying the game anymore. He's looking like he wants to quit the game. It does scare me a little bit, but at the same time, when push comes to shove, I think they're going to show up big. It's going to be interesting to see. Centered, Edgy, Commandment still looking phenomenal as well. But remember, both those teams we haven't seen play really at all in a set lobby this season. They both auto-qual. They didn't play any of the qualifying weeks, didn't play any of the semifinals, didn't play their reboot rounds, nothing. So coming into this, it's a little bit scary. How are both of them looking? And Centered, Edgy, Commandment, I'm not going to leave out because they've come second 3 times, and you know that is a hard-working team. Centered has been making jokes saying they haven't been grinding the game that much. There hasn't been scrims either, which scares me. Coming into the most recent FNCSs, once this auto-qualification system started, there was still a pretty decently healthy scrim scene going into finals, but this season there really hasn't. So Day's team and Centered's team haven't really had any practice coming into this, but a lot of teams did qualify instantly in the first week, so they only got to play 1 day of 6 set lobby games. Like, how much more experience is that really? So they're both up there, of course. Now, Booger, Nosh, and Avery, no shock there. Phenomenal team, qualified instantly in the first week, straight through to finals, but I have even higher hopes, and honestly, they are probably my 1 pick to win FNCS. They have one of the best drops on the map, if not the best. They have Orchard, and they have the IO house uncontested. So much ridiculous loot, so much area covered for chug cannons. They get peppers. They really get everything they need, but they also have two teams or 2 drops getting contested really close by. They have Macwood's team up against P-God's team at Craggy Cliffs, and you know there is going to be fireworks there. You know that is where a lot of the content from this weekend is going to come from. That's going to be a grudge match. It's going to get ugly, and that means free Storm Surge tags or even free elimination points for Booger, Nosh, Avery. If they get a north zone, they have enough time set up on the mountains. You're literally free picking up there. You just get to get AR tags. They can't push you. They can't stop you. You get to just tag away and do whatever you want. But they also have Colazo, Trashy, and Lazar P going up against Degen, Ages, Skittles at Corny Complex. So if the zone pulls south, on your way across on an early rotate, get some tags on those teams. They are looking fantastic just from their drop spot and how good they look already. But you include the fact that the two drop spots closest to them are going to be spawn fights, and they are sitting so pretty for Surge, which is one of the only issues with this drop spot. Also, they could potentially have Clix's team up against Bully's team at Steamy Stacks. Clix's team has been tossing up a few different drop spots. They joked about going Holy. I think that's off the menu because we have Voil's team up against Blake, Scoped, and Okers at Holy Hedges. So I don't think they'll go into a triple contest. But instead of going Steamy Stacks, which has been their drop spot and has been Creo's drop spot for a while, they've decided they'll have a better chance doing well against Pamstou, Carey, and Fatch at Retail Row. But if that fight goes south, I could very easily see them go back to Steamy Stacks and see how that goes. So Booger has potentially 3 drop spots, the 3 all around him, literally in a triangle, to get free tags and free elims on. So Booger right now looking fantastic coming into this FNCS. My other 2 picks, which I could see doing really, really well, is of course Saf, Stretch, and Kanata out of Lazy Lakes. One of the reasons I have counted them out, there's 2 main reasons. Lazy Lakes, the loot isn't as good as what you think. It really is actually questionably pretty bad for a major POI. It just doesn't have any of the IO chests. It just doesn't really have that much out of it. Like, it's good, don't get me wrong. It's a big POI, but I wouldn't be surprised in the 12 games to at least see them walking out with pretty terrible shotguns about half the time, or maybe even more. So still enough loot to make work. The second reason that scares me, and Stretch has been talking about this a lot this season. If you've been watching a lot of the games, you'll see that Stretch, being one of the best high ground IGLs in the game, is getting heavily countered or having a lot of issues with the launch pad meta. Stretch learned from Zayt. They set up early. They analyze the zones. They know what's forward. They anchor it. They get a really good high point. They have someone reinforce forward. Someone sits ulti height. And then you have Iomzo's team, who is my next prediction to do well, just padding on that, landing on their head, one pump, just mech demons going crazy. And that's what scares me for Stretch's team. Stretch seems really, really hell-bent on playing the same high ground meta, despite the fact that a lot of teams are going to be psychoing them. Not just Iomzo's team, who did so well week 1 with this same strategy when Stretch's team wasn't in the finals. So that's scary for those two teams. I think they're going to counter each other a lot. So despite me picking them to both do well here in the finals, I am kind of scared to see if they just counter each other out of the lobby by just taking high ground from each other. A lot of teams we saw abusing the fact this would happen. So in week 2, when we saw Saf, Stretch, and Kanata play, we saw a lot of teams like DGen's team go front side, look back, knowing the Stretch's team was going to get landed on, spray them out, and then take height from underneath them. It seemed to happen a lot, but honestly, I feel bad for Stretch because I see the cogs turning. He sets up for height so well. It is honestly so beautiful to see how well he understands the game to get high ground, but at the moment, padding onto height is just an easier way to do it with less materials, and if you're a psycho and you win the trade, you get high ground for free. So it's a bit scary in a 12-game format as well, because high ground is so inconsistent. Yes, for Iomzo's team in week 1, they did really phenomenally well, but that was in a 6-game format. Can they replicate the same level of consistency? Let's say they make it to endgame 9 times, they go for high ground all 9 of those. Let's say they win half of them, which is pretty good. That's about 4 or 5 games. Is that enough to actually win an FNCS off? Are they just going to have really high point games and then really low point games? That's what scares me, but either way, I've got to put them both up there because they both coming into this looking phenomenal. I'm also a bit scared for Iomzo's team because they're doing it out of the IO house just near Retail Row, and it looks like D-Roller, Spegu, and Charlie. I don't know if D-Roller, Spegu, Charlie is going to be dropping the rest of the Kami split and they're splitting it, but I have a feeling they might be landing directly on the IO house with Iomzo's team on it, because that's what they've been doing during the qualifying weeks as well. And if Iomzo's team's getting straight dropped on the IO houses, I don't think there's even a chance they get top 5. Not only is it a drop spot contest, like I've already talked about it, there's also no reboot van. So if one of you goes down and you still win the 2v3 and you guys both survive, you've now got to go find a reboot them, come back, get the loot. It's a really time-consuming drop spot to get contested at. I've already talked about a bit of the rest of the map, but I want to kind of defend some of the other choices. Gabe Tahi, Sprite, uncontested Believers Beach, still a phenomenal team, done big things, but just being a little bit quiet this season. They haven't done as much, so I'd be super happy to see them prove me wrong, but just haven't got the consistency to put them on a top 5 right now. Mega Dubs, Rokane, out of Boney Burbs, they're looking really, really good. I would not be at all surprised to see them pop off. We have Pledge, Tabs G, and Teo out of Weeping Woods, another really good looking team. Jack, Acorn, Slacks, FNCS champions. Why did I not include them in my top 5? Well, sorry, they're not dropping Slurpee Swamps, they're dropping Sludgy Swamps. And man, this drop is depressing. I believe it has 15 chests at it without 100% chest spawn, and they have Narwhal's Lemon Divine on a big split next to them, taking a lot of the Flush Factory loot and all the loot around there. Then they have Night Shark and Clarity G taking all the loot behind them, who are a very scary fighting team as well, so they can't even scrounge the extra loot around them because there's 2 teams taking a lot of that. That really does scare my chance for them doing well. We have Blake's team going up against Voil at Holly. That's going to be scary for them because, again, it's a spawn fight. Holly Hedges is a weird one too because of all the low grab zones. It's just going to be crazy, but hey, fun to watch. We have Bizzle's team going up against Larson's team at what I call Bizzle Mountains because he's been dropping there for ages, and it's always where he sets up for Surge. They are dropping on an IO house again for the same reason I described Iomzo's team. That is always a bit scary. We have Quanti's team going the middle of the map, which it could be good for them. Honestly, it's not a lot of loot, but at least they're uncontested. DGen Ages Skittles, one of my big favorites coming into this. They're getting contested by Trashy, Colazo, and Lazar, who said they were going to drop there the whole season. Looks like they've stuck true to their word. It's going to be rough for DGen's team. Corny is a bigger drop, and you can split it a little bit. You can get some of the loot and disengage. The fights do drag out a little bit, though, if you get pinned down underground in those tunnel sections, but that one's going to be an interesting fight to see because Colazo loves his spawn fights and he's really, really good at them. DGen Ages Skittles, though, overall, I do think have them matched just in general skill when it comes to endgame. They've been performing better the last few seasons, but hey, Colazo's a good friend of mine. It's going to be a fun fight to watch, and it looks like DGen's team understands what's going on. There doesn't seem to be a lot of beef going on between the two teams. And hey, they might be fighting over ruins pretty soon. We don't know. Maybe the UFO is going to blow up Corny like we think it's going to, or suck it into the sky. There might be no Corny by the time there's finals. So that's a scary team to bet on as well. We have Squish's team going risky and Zate Hills area with the bridge. We have Aspect, Kaz, and Who Fishy out of Pleasant. They're also getting the Spire. Could be a team to look out for to play consistently. Like I said, Kaz, one of the only people in this lobby to qualify for every single FNCS Grand Final. You can't count that out. Paper Qua and Nico out of Stealthy is a big sleeper pick. They've been doing really well this season, and I would not be surprised to see a top 5 or even a top 3 from them. Unfortunately, for the two teams going Coral, which is already such a rough drop, and now they're contested, we have our reboot round winners Wrigley going up against Berserk's team at Coral Castle. That's going to be sketchy for both of them because it's already a terrible drop, let alone when it's contested. Knifer Jays and Donnie going the split next to Gabe Tahi Sprite, especially with the teams contesting at Holly. They could maybe make that work if they're going to, fight their way in with a bit of Storm Surge tags and get their way in. It could work. And then Bank, Bully, and Krizux at Steamy Stacks. Bully has been going steamy for seasons. Always contested. Never had a chance to show how well he could actually do. Let's see if they can finally now make it work and potentially do something with it. Dukes, Justice, and Users at Caddy. That is a very underrated pick for mine. Nowhere near enough people talking about how phenomenal that team is. Joji's team on Misty Mountains. Pretty bad split. Almost no loot there. Goku's team going down Camp Cod. I mean, Slick qualified through reboot rounds. Didn't have the best success at Coral. Now he's going Camp Cod, which is the same issue. Edge map, no Storm Surge. They're going to get held by Joji's team pretty hard. We'll see if they can maybe pull that off. And then the crowning jewel of the whole weekend, Macwood's team up against P-Gods at Craggy Cliffs. Don't know if any of them are going to make it work. Don't know if they're going to go well, but hey, the fireworks going to be fun to watch. Twitter is going to be one to look out for this weekend. The last drop spot on NA is obviously the big one where fireworks are going to go down just because of who it is. Creo, Clix, and Bucky up against Pamstou, Carey, and Fatch at Retail. Who do I think is going to win that one? That's a scary one because Pamstou's team is a Misty Meadows team, but they give up Misty Meadows once they make it to finals when Center's there because they don't want to contest them, which again, are very respectable. Pamstou and Center are very good friends, and honestly, I interviewed Pamstou recently, one of my favorite people in the scene, a great kid with a really good work ethic and a very smart, underrated player. Retail's hard though, because Creo, Clix, and Bucky, I think, might have their match as fighters. They are absolutely phenomenal fighters. I think they have them met mechanically, but I think Pamstou, Carey, and Fatch have better coordination, better chemistry, and if they can make the spawn fight work for them and they can kind of stall it out and play it smarter, I think that's where they'll maybe walk away with the advantage. Iomzo's team fighting at the IO house near them gives them a little bit of a break, but if they drag that fight out too long, whoever wins the IO house fight, if they win it as a full trio, they're gonna take eyes down on Retail Row. So whoever you think is gonna win, it's going to be a very brutal weekend for both of them. There is no way you can split Retail's loot. We saw Smack's team try to do that recently and it just did not work. You don't walk away with enough. You pretty much have to find yourself a llama on the rotate to even have any chance to pull the loot together. So it's going to be exciting to watch. One thing I'll ask is if you're a Clix fan who's watching my videos, please, Pamstou, Carey, and Fatch are not doing this because they want to grief Clix. They were always going to go Retail Row. As soon as they made finals, they picked Retail Row as their drop before they knew Creo, Clix, and Bucky were going there. So I don't want any of the hate going towards them, even though I know they're going to get it regardless. I just know there's going to be rumors of, oh, they're just dropping on Clix because, they want the clout. They're nobodies. But Pamstou's been doing insane recently. Just came off the back of his huge pop-off, winning the solo grand finals for the All-Stars. So I don't think he wants to just grief his FNCS. We'll have to see who walks away from that one. Now, moving on to EU. Who are my top 3 out of EU? And again, no real surprises here. Tayson, Vino, and Rezon out of Believers Beach. Noah, Vidil, and Aqua out of Boney. And Hen, Janice, Chapix out of Craggy. Genuinely, I shouldn't have to explain these, but I will anyway. Tayson's team is looking absolutely disgusting. It did take them a few weeks to qualify, but hey, they came top 5 in both the first 2 weeks of qualifiers. Then they finally got their spot in week 3. They're looking fantastic. Vino's been talking a lot about his mental health issues. He's getting really nervous. He gets really stressed out, but honestly, Vino is looking fantastic, and I really hope he gets those nerves under control because they can absolutely dominate, and I think they will. We have Noah, Vidil, and Aqua out of Boney Burbs, the high ground only only team. They've all changed their names. Again, you've got always on height for Aqua, and really they are, but I like the way they play it. They don't set up for it too early, like Stretch's team, and get usually landed on too aggressively. They don't just land on it like Psychos, or sometimes they do, but when it doesn't work, I love the way they play it. They quickly get off it. They reassert themselves on second height. They tap in on second height. They keep tapping away. They keep being frustrating, and then they take it again. They really are one of, if not the best height teams in the world right now. They have a good mix of using good intelligence to set up for it, but understanding they can just pad on height when they need to. But I like the fact they give it up very quickly when someone else pads, wait until hopefully someone else psychos again, and then take their opportunity to take it. They've been really, really smart with how they play high ground this season. And then Hen, Janice, and Chapix, they are still looking absolutely disgusting. We get to see the performance we were hoping for last FNCS with uncontested craggy cliffs. We got to see them through the qualifiers this season because obviously they didn't get top 5 last season, or top 3, sorry. They're looking fantastic, absolutely ridiculously dominant. You couldn't count them out. My 2 backup picks, Kami Seti Teak out of the Kami split. It's a fantastic drop spot with how strong Chug Cannons are right now. Them having one of the biggest splits on the map, and uncontested, by the way, the only team to have the Kami split uncontested on any region from what I've seen. They look fantastic. That's a good chance of getting multiple Chug Cannons, taking them into endgame. They are looking so good. We also then have, again, this one's not really a scary one, but Kiriachi's team out of Sludgy. Now, Sludgy looks absolutely terrible. I'm not going to lie to you. It is bad, but if any team can make it work, it is Kiriachi's team. They have a similar situation as what Jack's team on NA have. They have Queasy's team, the running up FNCSs. I'll explain why they're not in my top 3 in a second. And then they have Savage's team on either side of them, taking a lot of that loot. So hopefully they can scrounge some of it. I think if any team can, it's going to be Kiriachi, Toos, and Stormy to make it work. But the 3rd place pick was a hard one for me. Why didn't I pick the FNCS champions? We just haven't seen enough from them. I would say this, I'm good friends with almost all of them. I always have Queasy and Jerky in my chat, having a chat with them all the time. Again, I'd say it to their face. They won last FNCS without being the favorites. They performed so well. Not going to try and take it away from them. They did so ridiculous, but we haven't seen enough from them off that FNCS win now coming into this season with no real set lobby experience. I hope they can back it up. No one would be happy to be proven wrong than me, but I'm just a little bit scared without having seen them play as much as some of my other teams to put them in my top 3. Looking at the rest of EU, who are the 2 big spawn fights to look out for? You probably already see them as well. We have Joe, Shadow, and Benji going up against, as I believe it's Mappy, Exteriors, and Red Rush at Corny again. Corny's a fight that they could maybe split a little bit. I don't know based on who's made this map. Maybe Benji's team is opting towards taking some of the north of Corny and then going towards the bridge area. Kami Seti Teak are uncontested at the Kami split, which means that they can split a lot of that loot, go really wide. Maybe they won't take the bridge area of the loot, and maybe Benji's team can, but ultimately it's going to be very scary them going head to head. I've already talked plenty about why I don't think Benji's team's going to do well, because they are contested. They've looked so fantastic in the qualifying weeks. I really, really hope I'm wrong and Benji absolutely pops off and dominates, but Exteriors' team is a scary fighting team as well. We have, of course, Steamy getting contested. Rescard, Savage, and Andretta. So Andretta has had Steamy stacks uncontested one time. One FNCS, and they came second. This team is phenomenal. They've now replaced Scram with Savage, and now they're contested again. I think they easily could have been a top 3 or FNCS winner, but they're now going up against, I believe it's Mustache, Shizo, and Malabuka. I've been hyping up Malabuka a lot in the qualifying weeks, in cash cups and everything. Malabuka has been popping off, and he is a very, very scary spawn fighter at Steamy. So I just don't think either of those teams are going to do too fantastically. Steamy's also a really awkward fight to fight at, because you sit on the stacks, you go up on top of the stacks, you hide in the buildings, you fly away, you fly back. It's just a really slow, irritating fight, which is on the edge of the map. So any fight that drags out just makes it even more difficult to do well. Karma, Void, and Fast Strocky up against Zandy, Chashi, and Sean VP could be an interesting one at the Orchard area. This is a little bit rough as well, though, because they're not getting like the Booger split like I talked about, where it's Orchard and the IO house. Ellicrat's team is getting the IO house, so they are triple dropping on just Orchard, and it's not a lot of loot. So any team in this area, for similar reasons like Booger's team, is going to have a really good time third partying, and that's what I think Hen, Janice, and Chapix is going to do. They're going to be able to rotate through here early with their car. They're going to be able to hopefully get past Pleasant before before ADN, Matzo, and Amplify get out because they've got more area to cover than what Hen's team does. They'll either aggressively push towards Stealthy like they do if they get a north zone, if they think they can beat Wings team and just bully them, or they're going to rotate down towards this Orchard fight and then this Corny fight and just pretty much pick up the scraps or even Steamy stacks. If they get a north zone, they have any time in the world they want to pretty much push any of these fights. So it is so scary for them fighting here, and I think that will hurt them a lot. We have Default, Sapphic, and Putric, which are doing so well. I picked them to qualify into the finals. They did so great. They now have Uncon Dirty for a team that it took them a while to qualify right until the very end. That is a little bit surprising for me, but obviously Thomas HD's team didn't qualify. Everyone just assumed they would and they'd be going dirty, so they jumped on that quickly and they have the reputation to hold it. ADN, Matzo, and Amplify Pleasant Park could be a big sleeper pick. Matzo and Amplify last season talking about how they were really unmotivated. That's why Benjy didn't want to play with them anymore. They all just didn't work well as a team. But hey, with ADN, they're looking absolutely fantastic coming into this. I don't think they're top 3 or top 5, but I would not be surprised if they do make it into that top 5 position. I just think there's other teams that I would say are more consistent right now. We also then have Zeston's team going that middle map kind of split. On EU, we don't have the Bizzle Mountains contested. Buzz's team is going there. Rotary's team uncontested Weeping. We of course have the Holy Hedges fight to watch. This one's weird for me because Kezik's and ZQ's team I know way better than I know is it Arian's team, so I don't know who's gonna walk away from that fight, but it looks really good for Rifler, Astro, and Savid, who can get their loot on the edge because they have a very edge map, long split. They're gonna be going all the way down to the IO house, I imagine, and they can then go and third party that and take a fight, maybe get some elims, maybe get some good points as well. We have Diablo's team going the castle split. We then have Doko's team going right up towards the Coral Castle. Again, Misty Meadows, this one sucks because both these teams are so good. We have 2 French teams going Misty. Misty has always been owned by the French. A lot of the times when they drop here, they don't fight. They do split it east to west, which always makes jokes over colluding and teaming, but Misty is the one drop that quite often in every region teams split. You literally have a giant river right down the middle, which gives you a lot of room to get loot and get out. You can also scrounge some loot. If you go to the west side, you can go towards the gas station and loot all the houses. If you go the east side, you push towards Caddy, you get the bridge, you get the mountains. There's a lot of loot to be had, so it could be interesting to see whether either Deceptos' team or Andelix's team does well out of the contested Misty. Out of every team contested this weekend, that's probably my pick to do the best. We then have Art Skills team going in the Misty Mountains. We have Bubak's team going, I don't know if that's Weather Station or Camp Cod, not really sure there. Tenzin's team going Caddy Corners, and we have Nebs, Pink, and Stompy going Lazy, who honestly, I probably could even put them in my top 5 over Kiriachi's team. They're looking really good coming into this one. Uncontested Lazy is a strong drop. Not the strongest on the map, but enough for the team with that much consistency to see if they do well. And I think the last team I haven't talked about, Splash's team going Risky, and then the Zate Hill area. Probably a team that I could see do incredibly well as well, who could also third party all those fights around the Orchard area. That does it for the drop spot breakdown and the predictions, but I wanted to take the opportunity to talk about these leaks now. So what is going on and why are we talking about the new season already? Obviously, it's around the corner and I'm going to make a bunch of content on this when FNCS Finals is over, talking about what I want for the new season, what did I like about this season, what didn't I like, all that kind of stuff. You guys absolutely loved those videos last season, so I'm really excited to bring those back, but we got our first teaser. It's a live event and iFireMonkey tweeted this out. Operation Skyfire, and it's going to be on the 12th of the 9th, 21, so that's in, about 9 days, probably by the time you're watching this, and I'm excited for this. So right now, iFireMonkey said the attractions are set on the IO basis. Sloan has a plan to end the invasion once and for all. Are you ready? Now, a lot of people I've been reading, because I haven't been following the storyline that much, have been talking about how it's Sloan's plan to put a whole bunch of explosives under Corny, and they're going to use that to blow up the mothership that's then going to crash into Misty. Now, this looks a bit scary for Sentence team or Andelix's team or even Deceptos' team who are going Misty. I'm imagining this happens after FNCS Grands, but who knows? This weekend, we could potentially have Corny get pulled into the UFO with explosives, blow up, and then crash. Based on the timing of how the most recent events have happened, what I imagine is going to happen is this weekend, we're going to see Corny turn into like we did with Slurpee and Coral. It's going to get pulled up into the air. It's going to have the IO chest. It's going to have the low grav, which could actually work well for teams going Caddy. Crops. It could be more loot for them maybe. And then when FNCS Finals ends in that week afterwards, then Corny is going to get sucked into the UFO like Slurpee did, and that's where it's going to explode and that's where it's going to crash. That sounds like map changes. I'm hoping that's some pretty drastic map changes. I hope it's not just the IO houses, Corny and Misty. That's a fair bit of changes, don't get me wrong. That's probably more than we've seen recently coming into a new season. That's 2 major POIs affected in a bunch of different areas around the map. If all of those turn into new POIs, because most of these IO house areas fall on big blank sections of the map that could be filled, I would be excited. I want even more than that, but it's a really good first teaser. I even made the joke, if Operation Skyfire, which is a mission to blow up a giant UFO spaceship above the map, doesn't create massive map changes, I've lost all faith in the storylines to give us some new maps. Because seriously, I had made the joke at the start of the season that I was hashtag team nuke the map, didn't care who was going to win this war as long as they changed the map, and that didn't really happen. So let's hope Sloan's the one to just change everything and just give me a new map. Alright guys, that does it for another video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please chuck a like on it. Remember, I'm going to be doing viewing parties this whole weekend for all these grand final games, so make sure you swing by my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Aussie Antics. It's going to be a great time. Let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts on anything I talked about today. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It would mean the world to me. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.